Alrighty, welcome back to another exciting lesson of Pro Mandarin. Now, do you know any unfriendly people and want to tell someone about it? Or maybe outside and your bowl of noodles are at a good temperature and you don't know how to express that. Or perhaps you're thinking, I'm not cute at all and I just gotta complain about it. Well, who are you gonna complain to if you only got Chinese people to talk to? Now, we're gonna discuss how to talk about that in Chinese. But first you're probably wondering, can I learn all this Chinese in one lesson? Well, let's find out. So for the first word, we got 一点儿 or 一点, which means a little bit. Now, we're not going to use it in the normal sense of just saying a little bit. What we're going to talk about is how something isn't even a little bit something or isn't that thing at all. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and give you the pronouns. So if you already know your pronouns, go ahead and skip ahead. If not, go ahead and stick around. We got 我, which is I or me. We got 你, which means you. Then we got 他, which is he or him, and 她, which is she or her. Next, we got 都, which means all, and 也, which means also. However, in this sentence structure, the meanings will change a bit, so it won't be used the same way that we use it in English. And I'll show you how that works here in just a minute. And then the next column, we got 不, and you may have also noticed that it can be pronounced 不 sometimes. And I'll show you how that works in just a moment as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add in some adjectives to help us construct full sentences. So for the first word we got is 开心, which is one of the many ways to say to be happy in Chinese. And then we got 夸张, which means overstated, excessive, ridiculous, outrageous. And in this case, we're going to mean it to exaggerate or to be over-exaggerating or something along those lines. And then we got 热, which means hot, and then we got 冷, which means cold. And then the next one we have is 友好, which means friendly, and there's another way to say in that, 友善, which is also friendly. And then lastly we got 可爱, which is cute. So as I mentioned, there's the 不 and 不. So for all of these we're going to use 不 except for 热. That's because it has a fourth tone. So any syllable that follows 不 having a fourth tone, it changes to 不, so you'd say 不热. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple examples here. The first example is he's not exaggerating at all. So the way you would say that is 他一点也不夸张. 他一点也不夸张. So another way of thinking of it is he's not even a little bit over exaggerating, okay? So that's another way of thinking of it, okay? Now the second example would be I'm not even a little bit cold, or I'm not cold at all. The way you'd say that is 我一点都不冷. 我一点都不冷. So you can use 都 or 也. It doesn't make a difference. It means the same thing. All right, so now I'm going to give you a few seconds to be able to answer each question. And if you need to, go ahead and pause the video. So for the first practice question, how would you say she's not friendly at all, or she's not even a little friendly? And we're going to use 也 for this one. 她一点也不友好. 她一点也不友好. Now, how would you say he's not cute at all, or he's not even a little cute? And we're going to use 都 for this one. 他一点都不可爱. 他一点都不可爱. Now, how would you say you're not happy at all, or you're not even a little happy? And we're going to use 也 for this one. 你一点也不开心. 你一点也不开心. All right, let's go ahead and change a couple of things up here. First off, on the right side, you may have noticed that I took out pretty much all of those adjectives except for a couple. And I'm going to go ahead and add in 疼, which means hurt or in pain or ache or aching or something like that. And then on the left over here, we're going to put 的, which makes all of these pronouns possessive pronouns. So instead of saying I or me, it becomes my or mine, okay? And then instead of you, it becomes yours. And instead of he or him, it becomes his, and so on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add something of ours. In this case, we're going to add in 脚, which means foot. So if I were to say my foot doesn't even hurt a little bit, one of the ways I could say that is 我的脚一点都不疼. 我的脚一点都不疼. Now this would probably be in response to somebody asking, like, is your foot hurting at all? Well, no, it's not even hurting a little bit, okay? Or it's not hurting at all, right? Now I could also take out 的, and that would be perfectly fine too. Typically, Chinese people will leave this one out. If it's so commonly used, then they'll say 我脚一点都不疼. 我脚一点都不疼. Now, if it was my head, I would say 头 instead of 脚. Okay, so I would say 我的头一点都不疼.我的头一点都不疼. And again, I can also leave off the "的" for that one as well. What if I wanted to say your head isn't even a little hot, or your head isn't hot at all? Like for an example, let's say your kid said like, oh, my head's really hot. Maybe I have a fever. I can't go to school. And you're like, let me check it out. You put your hand on their head and you're like, no, you're going to school. You're not hot, or your head's not hot. So how would you say that? And we're going to use "都" for this one. 你的头一点都不热. 你的头一点都不热. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next section. But before we do that, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out so I can continue to make quality content like this video. Alright, now back to the lesson. Now for this next part, I'm switching things up again, just a little bit here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in some nouns here in the front. 今天, which means today. 外边, which means outside. 水, which means water. 汤面, which means noodle soup. And 锅, which means pot or pan. Now, 锅, usually I hear them referring to it as a pot. But if you want to be a little more specific, like let's say a frying pan, then you would say 煎锅. But we're just going to use 锅 as a blanket word here for either pots or pans, okay? And over on the right, we're actually going to add in a couple words here. The first one's going to be 凉. So 凉 means cool or chilly. So the best way to understand it is that it's not as cool as 冷. So 冷 is cold and 凉 is cool or chilly, okay? And then we got 烫, which is more of like scalding hot. So just a quick little note about that. We're not going to use it with 今天 and 外边 because, well, we don't go outside and say, ow, that was scalding hot when we went outside or anything like that. Instead, we talk about specific tangible items like the water or the noodle soup or the pan or something like that. So that's where we're going to use that, okay? Now, we have another word to describe temperature, which is 温暖, which means warm. Now, you could also just say 暖. Like something is warm, you can just say 暖 or 很暖. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into the practice. How would you say, today it's not even a little cold, or it's not cold at all today? And we're going to use 也 for this one. 今天一点也不冷. 今天一点也不冷. How would you say the water is not cold or chilly at all? And we're going to use 都 for this one. 水一点都不凉. 水一点都不凉. Now you could also say 水一点都不冷. Either way is actually okay, honestly. So now how would you say the pot or the pan isn't hot at all? Like it's not scalding hot, for an example. And we're going to use 都 for this one. 锅一点都不烫. 锅一点都不烫. Now you could have also said 热. Again, 热 is hot and 烫 is scalding. So either one is okay. Just realize like if you're saying like, hey, this is scalding hot, you're not going to say 热, you're going to say 很烫 or something like that. If you're saying it's not scalding hot, you say 不烫. And it's just as simple as that, okay? Now let's go ahead and do one more here. How would you say the noodle soup isn't scalding hot at all? Or it isn't even a little scalding hot? And we're going to use 也 for this one. 汤面一点也不烫. 汤面一点也不烫. And if you want to be more specific, you could say this bowl of noodles isn't scalding hot at all. You could say 这碗汤面一点也不烫. Alright, to finish off today's lesson, I'm going to give you 4 more questions that you can answer in the comments below. So for the first one, I'm going to give you an extra word here that you can use, which is 累, which means tired. So the first phrase would be, I'm not tired at all, or I'm not even a little tired. So how would you say that? And then the second one is, it's not hot outside at all. The third phrase is, this frying pan isn't scalding hot at all. And then the last one is, I'm not cute at all, or I'm not even a little bit cute. But don't say that last one too much to yourself. That'd be kind of sad, actually. So once you figure out how to say these phrases, go ahead and write them in the comments below. And if you like this video, make sure you 点赞、订阅和分享这个视频, which means to like, subscribe, and share this video. And until next time, 下次见.